You know that sound, right? The clatter of Mahjong tiles. It's a game of skill, of focus, and yeah, a little bit of luck. But what if I told you there's something else going on? The source material we're diving into today suggests there's a deep cosmic principle hiding in plain sight on the Mahjong table. So let's shuffle the tiles and see what we find.
So let's ask the big question right up front. What really decides who wins a game of Mahjong? Is it just who's the sharpest player? Is it the pure random chance of the draw? Or could it be something else? Something connecting you, the tiles, and maybe even the whole universe in a way you've never thought about? That's the mystery our source author is trying to solve. And the first clue, according to the author, is a feeling every player knows. It's a concept called shou-qi, which basically translates to hand luck. We've all been there, right? Those hot streaks where you just can't lose, or those games where nothing, absolutely nothing goes your way. Well, the author claims this isn't just luck. It's a signpost pointing to a much bigger secret.
To start figuring this out, we got to look at the numbers. A standard Mahjong set has 136 tiles. Now, that might not sound like a huge number, but the number of ways those tiles can combine, well, it's absolutely astronomical.
It's so vast, in fact, that you could literally play Mahjong every single day of your life, and you'd almost certainly never see the exact same hand twice. Think about that. It feels like pure beautiful chaos, a lottery of little tiles. And yet, the author argues, something is quietly organizing that chaos. Something is pulling the strings of your hand luck.
And that brings us to the core concept of the entire text. The author gives this organizing force a name, Hunden. And they claim it doesn't just run the game of Mahjong, it runs everything.
Okay, so what in the world is Hundon? The author describes it as a state of total cosmic interconnectedness. The idea is that the universe is basically a giant hologram. You know, where every single tiny piece, no matter how small, contains all the information of the entire picture. Nothing is separate. It's all connected.
To make this a bit more concrete, the author uses an analogy you've probably heard before, the butterfly effect. A butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the planet and causes a hurricane on the other. According to the source, in the state of Hundun, that's not just a cool thought experiment. It's the literal fabric of how reality works. Every little thing sends ripples through the entire system.
So, let's bring this back to the Mahjong table. If everything is connected, then your hand luck is anything but random. The author claims it's influenced by, well, everything. Your physical energy, how you slept last night, even which direction your chair is facing. It also includes the elemental states, the wu-xing or 5 phases of every single person at the table. Your entire being in that one moment is being reflected in the tiles you draw. It's a wild idea.
And here's where the author really expands the idea, taking it way beyond the game. They argue that this principle of Hunden isn't just some theory about Mahjong. No, in their view, it's the very foundation of an entire culture.
This is the author's biggest and boldest claim. They propose that if you want to find the true root of Chinese culture, you don't look to the big famous philosophies like Confucianism, Buddhism, or Taoism. Instead, they argue, all of those are just branches growing from a much older, deeper root. This foundational understanding of the universe as a state of Hundun.
And the text actually traces this lineage. It goes all the way back to a mythical sage named Fuzi, who supposedly was the first to perceive the universe in this totally interconnected way. This insight was then captured in these mystical diagrams, which then gave birth to the 8 trigrams, or bagua. You've probably seen them. These became the building blocks for so many Chinese traditions.
So from this point of view, all these famous practices, think about Feng Shui, the I Ching for divination, even the entire system of traditional Chinese medicine, they're not seen as separate fields at all. They're just different ways of applying the exact same underlying principle of Hunden, the idea that it's all one interconnected system.
Okay, hang on, because this concept of Hunden then leads to what is maybe the author's most provocative claim of all, a ranking system, a hierarchy, for different ways that we humans think.
And here it is. At the very top, you've got Hunden, thinking, this holistic, total interconnection. Then, going down the ladder, the author places Buddhist thought, then Taoist thought. Below that is what they call Western, or scientific thinking. And at the very bottom of this hierarchy, they put Confucianism, labeling it as material thinking. It's a pretty radical way to look at different philosophies, right?
So why does this hierarchy even matter? Well, the author uses this quote, "Cleverness is defeated by cleverness," to explain a phenomenon we've all seen. You know, why some people who don't seem particularly smart or who don't work that hard just succeed, almost effortlessly. The argument is that they're not playing the same game. They're operating from a higher, more intuitive level, closer to Hundun, that just sidesteps all the logic and rules.
Which, of course, leads to a fascinating paradox. If this Hundun thinking is the ultimate state, how on earth do you get there? The answer, according to the author, is the last thing you'd expect.
Just look at this breakdown. The author argues that basically everything we're taught to value, getting more knowledge, creating more rules, having more complex moral concepts, doing more rational analysis, all of that actually pulls you further away from Hundun. The path to it involves unlearning, letting go, returning to a simpler, more primal state of being. And to back this up, the author pulls quotes from completely different traditions. You've got Laozi from Taoism saying you must return to infancy, and Jesus from the West saying you must become like a child. The core idea is the same. This state of pure, simple awareness, before it gets cluttered up with all our concepts and rules, that's the key to tapping into that deeper, interconnected reality.
So this entire journey, which started with a simple game of Mahjong and ended with a theory of the cosmos, leaves us with one last, really challenging question to chew on. What if the highest form of wisdom has nothing to do with how much you can learn, but everything to do with how much you're willing to forget? What if true understanding is found not in what you know, but in what you have the courage to let go of?